Hello, welcome to our presentation. My name is Hilary,
And I'm Belle.
and our team is 22161 MTech Dark Matter. This is our fourth year, but majority of our members are in their second year. Last season, we were a mostly rookie team, and we learned a lot through trial and error. In this session, you'll learn how to revise and improve your portfolio, get some organization tips and strategies, and hear from our personal experience.
So what is a portfolio? The engineering portfolio is used to demonstrate your team's progress throughout the season. This is everything from coding, CADing, to outreach and design. This is a total of 15 pages, 16 including the cover. This is important because it can qualify you for awards, which allow you to advance. Additionally, this year it is important to have both a good portfolio and robot in order to progress. You may have heard of the term engineering notebook. In the past, teams would submit an engineering notebook that contained an limited pages of documentation for their entire season instead of a portfolio. Now, it is just required for teams to submit a portfolio to the judges. However, some teams, including us, still create an engineering notebook to help with documentation and also have as a reference during pit judging.
Last season, our team advanced from state to the premier event. Some of you may be hearing about this event for the first time. Last season first introduced premier events as a part of the advancement structure at the state level. The goal was to give more high-performing teams a chance to compete at a higher level event, even if they didn't qualify for Worlds. These premier events are hosted by external organizations and take place in different locations. Knowing about them is helpful if you're aiming to do well at state, because even if your team doesn't make it to Worlds, there's still another opportunity to advance. In some cases, if your team doesn't qualify for a premier based on performance, you might be able to sign up later if spots became available. We attended the Michiana Premier event. Throughout this presentation, you'll see examples from both our state portfolio and our premier portfolio, so you can see how we continue to refine it. Next, to set up a portfolio, we'll begin with software. There are three main software options when it comes to creating your portfolio: Canva, Adobe Illustrator, and Google Slides. Of course, there are other options you can use, but these are the main ones we have seen, and each have its own drawbacks and advantages. First is accessibility. Both Canva and Slides are free, but a lot of the features on Canva require a premium subscription. As for Adobe, a subscription is needed. However, if your team or school provides both a premium Canva or Adobe, cost may not be a factor. Additionally, Canva and Slides are online in comparison to Adobe Illustrator's local access. Second is ease of use, formatting control, and learning curve. Both Canva and Google Slides have automatic margins, making it easier to organize and align your pages, as well as pre-made assets. However, Canva has a wider selection. Adobe does not have automatic margins or pre-made assets. You have to make the assets yourself or import them. Additionally, Canva and Slides both have autosave, while Adobe does not. We learned that the hard way. Some of those features can be enabled manually.
Third is importing and transferring images. Both Canva and Adobe require you to download and then import any pictures into their software. On the other hand, Google Slides is synced with Google Drive, allowing you to transfer images easily. Both Canva and Slides allow you to download everything as a PDF for easy exporting and printing, while with Adobe, you have to download it as an Adobe file and then use a website to convert it into a PDF. Fourth is the ability to work simultaneously. Both Canva and Google Slides allow for real-time editing with multiple users, while Adobe is local access and cannot have multiple users accessing it at once even with the Creative Cloud. Having multiple members work on the same document saves time and increases productivity overall. We have tested all three of these applications, and this is what we have to say about each. Canva was very easy to use and self-explanatory. We can make more visual pages with graphs and charts. However, we did find some issues with font sizings. In the end, we used it for creating our graphs and small graphics. And Adobe looked nice, but it was hard to navigate for beginners. We spent a lot of time looking at tutorials and manually creating our assets. Exporting was complicated, however, we could fit a lot of information on one page due to the many font options and sizes. Last is Google Slides, which was very easy to use and was neat. We had less trouble with the font sizes, and it was easy to import and export our assets. Also, graphs and charts could be linked from Google Sheets or Google Forms. One nice thing about Google Slides is that it allows you to store assets on the side of your screen instead of on the page, which allows you to have them be in a wider workspace and it doesn't delete them. Overall, last season we wasted a lot of our time switching between all three of these applications. We recommend using Google Slides because of its simplicity and its ability to sync with your Google Drive. But if you want a more visually appealing software, Canva would be a better upgrade. As for Adobe, unless you have experience using this software, we do not recommend using it, though it is a good for fitting lots of text into small spaces.
To go into more detail about why Google Slides work best for us, here are a few reasons. Our team uses a shared Google account to keep everything, docs, sheets, pictures, etc., in one place. It makes it easy for everyone to access files, upload pictures from their phones, and organize our drive by season, subteam, events, and more. We also have each sub-team write their own part of the portfolio, then our outreach team helps refine and organize the whole thing. This allows for everyone to work on the same document at the same time. Next are some formatting tips. When formatting your pages, make sure every page is consistent. Here's an example. On the left was our first draft, and on our right is our most current version. The margins on the old version are not consistent at all. The footer and the header are different sizes, it looks messy and unorganized, and there's a lot of white space. As for the newer one, we kept the formatting more uniform and included headers in each section of that page. There's still white space, but it's not an overwhelming amount.
Next, keep a consistent color scheme throughout your portfolio. You can use your team's colors along with a few neutrals to make your portfolio look cleaner, more professional, and less messy. And visuals will always be better than long and lengthy paragraphs. Portfolio isn't a paper, however, make sure you're not over summarizing your information. On the left, we have fewer words and bigger pictures, though there's a lack of information. On the right, there are more words and pictures, but it's not an overwhelming amount. In the new version, we were able to talk more in depth without overgeneralizing or over-explaining. Short bullet points can be good, however, when used in excess, they start to lack depth and make it harder to fully explain your ideas.
Like we said, visuals are super important for telling the story of your team and your season. When choosing pictures or graphics, you want to be intentional about what you include and how it supports what you're talking about. In our first drafts, we often threw in random robot pictures just to fill in space. It worked for getting something on the page, but it didn't actually add value. You want your visuals to elevate what you're saying and not just decorate the page. Here are some different types of visuals you can include. Some other tips are to make sure your pages are easy to skim and organize. Judges do not have a lot of time to look over your team's portfolio. You want to make sure your information stands out to them. Color coding your sections and having a table of contents makes it easier to pinpoint specific information.
One of the hardest lessons we learned throughout our season was the importance of taking pictures of everything and making quick notes of what we did. When we started putting our portfolio together, we realized we had forgotten key details about certain iterations or design ideas. Even worse, we didn't have any photos of them. This meant we had to recreate parts of our process or our explanation and create them vaguely, or we had to recreate them by forging it. And this made our documentation less effective. Now we made it a habit to take pictures of everything, even if we're not sure if we'll use them. We store these images in different labeled folders in the Google Drive, which helps it so we can find them later on in the season. The notes do not have to be super detailed, just include a quick explanation of what it is, the reason behind it, or what idea you were testing. Some ways to do this are using a shared storage space like OneDrive or Google Drive to dump all of your photos weekly, and labeling the folders by date, event, or subteam. Make a habit of taking photos right after sketching, designing, or building. And lastly, write short blurbs into documents to explain what was worked on.
Next, we'll be going over how to start the first few pages of your portfolio. First, start with a title page. This page should not include any information specific to your team or season. However, you can include things like a table of contents, a picture of your team, or a photo of your robot. If your title page includes additional team-specific content, it will count as one of your 15 allowed pages, and judges may not read your actual 15th page. Next is introduce your team. Make sure to include roles and goals for each member, as these are both required or encouraged criteria for judging. Make sure to maximize space. Next, you'll want to include a page that outlines your season goals, how you plan to achieve them, your estimated season budget, and how your team plans to stay sustainable in the long run. This section helps judges understand your team's vision beyond just building a robot, showing planning and organization skills. On the next page, we'll show you the requirements.
Here, you can see that 2 of the 4 criteria are required, while the other 2 are encouraged. You must include any required information in your portfolio. As you can see, one of the following, financial plan, season project, planning, or sustainability plan is required. So if your team doesn't have all 3 of these, it's okay as long as you have one of them. Remember, the encouraged section is encouraged for a reason. Last is the main content of your portfolio. This section makes up the rest of your pages and should include information about your outreach, building, programming, or fundraising. Basically everything your team has done throughout the season. Now, we will go over the general things you should include and how to balance the 15-page limit based on what your team specializes in. Here are some quick generalized requirements. You can find all of these inside the manual, and requirements change depending on the season, so be sure to always check the manual. This year, there are new awards and new advancement system, so always double check. Think about what your team does most, how many people are coding or doing outreach, and how many are doing PR, designing, or building. What parts can you explain in the most detail? What can you explain with your subsystems, control solutions, or a community project? Be careful not to have 10 pages focused in just one area. Judges want to see a well-rounded team for certain awards, so even if your team specializes in one category, don't overlook the others. If you feel like you don't have enough content, don't feel pressured to fill all of these pages right away. We didn't completely fill ours at first anyways. Again, read the manual for changes. This year there is the Reach and Sustain Award instead of Motivate.
On these next few slides, we'll show a few changes we made to our portfolio from the beginning of last season to the end. On our team's goals page, we maximize space by including skill development directly on the page rather than just an unnecessary paragraph. On the left, our old version shows how we condensed what was originally 2 pages into 1, giving us an extra page to showcase other things our team did. Also, the executive summary information was very general and was repeated on other pages. Our premiere version on the right is more organized, less overwhelming than the old executive summary page. On the old version, our explanation of our design process was vague. It didn't explain why we made certain changes or why they mattered. Additionally, the intake was described on multiple times across different pages. In our Premiere version, you can see the content is more organized and clearly sectioned with reasoning behind each design choice. This wasn't the only page where we explained our robot. Other pages also covered more important information.
We went from a general explanation of what a robot does to a detailed description of what it is, how it works, and how well it performed, as well as the possible improvements. We also made sure the content met judge requirements, specifically fulfilling the criteria for the Control Award, and included some approaches that we used. We added more information and reduced white space, allowing us to elaborate further and go beyond what we learned than what was suggested. This gave us a chance to talk about all of our season more in depth and our overall impact, our robot redesigns, and other aspects that were important.
Here are some final takeaways. First, keep your portfolio organized and focused. Make sure each page serves a clear purpose and avoid overwhelming judges with too much information or repeated information. Second, align your content with award criteria. Tailor your portfolio to highlight what judges are looking for and show in-depth areas like design and outreach. Third, use your pages wisely. Maximize space by combining related info and reducing white space. Fourth, start collecting photos, sketches, and notes early in the season. This helps reduce confusion later and makes your documentation more clear and accurate. And last, share the workload across team members. Collaboration leads to a stronger, more complete portfolio. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to contact us.